if AI is only marketing hype and a buzzword, or is it actually deeply entrenched into our systems?
Remember in the 2000s, they were always saying, is the internet hype or real? And I think we know now it's very real. AI is in a very similar one. In fact, we are still at the beginning of AI. AI is expected to contribute to 14% of the UAE GDP by 2030.
How does Intel's on-device AI act as the ultimate fail-safe while network or cloud connections are compromised?
Here in the Middle East, and it's globally, we have a technology called...
What does Intel's depth of silicon experience mean for a CIO making a decision right now?
It's a very, I would say, one of the project was image processing for the National Health Service. This was actually an AI project. Instead of AI doing the training, we were doing the training ourselves. So now it happens with AI. I had almost 16 different jobs with 20 plus different managers in 3 continents.
What are you saying? AI is everywhere now. In fact, this is a version of me in AI talking to you. Nah, I'm kidding. AI is in our phones, it's in our laptops, heck, it's in our cars. But it's not about where AI is going to go, it's about where it's already going. Welcome to Mash Talks here in the Middle East, a brand new IP that we're launching, because in the Middle East, we are dealing with more than just a tech transition. We are navigating a climate of regional uncertainty and shifting global dynamics. And the real questions are, is our tech resilient? Is our data sovereign? And how can we build a better and more secure future with AI at the center? Today, we're in Dubai speaking to the man who's at the very core leading Intel's AI strategy across the Middle East and Africa. Speaking to Taha Khalifa, General Manager, Intel Corporation. Taha has spent over 3 decades at Intel, from engineering roles in the US to driving the company's vision across the Middle East. And today, we're going to figure out how AI moves from promise to performance. Let's go. Hi Taha, welcome to Mash Talks. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm fine, thank you.
Nice to have you. Let's jump right in and understand if AI is only marketing hype and a buzzword, or is it actually deeply entrenched into our systems?
This is a question that I've been hearing a lot lately about AI and is it a hype? And I think the reason behind this is probably twofold. There's a lot of discussion on AI, so it's making people kind of wonder how to use AI and how to really start be part of this revolution that is changing the industry landscape. And of course, because of the stock market growth for AI. By all means, AI is a technology that is very transformative, that is very impactful, that will impact the way that we live, learn, and work. And it's as transformative as the internet. And remember, in the 2000s, they were always saying, is the internet hype or real? And I think we know now it's very real. AI is in a very similar one. In fact, we are still at the beginning of AI.
So cool. I mean, if you were on the good side of the dot-com boom, then today you're thriving. I think it's going to be exactly probably like that. If you're on the good side of the AI boom, you're going to be thriving within the next 20, 25 years. But it's not like it's not been around, right, Taha? AI has been around for a while. It's been called different names. Wasn't IoT and ML and a little of every buzzword that we've heard in the last decade also something which AI has evolved to today?
This is a very interesting point, which many people don't actually know, that AI has been in theory since the 60s. Actually,
what do you say?
I've learned it in college in 1990s, early 1990s. All of basic technologies on AI. So it's been there for a while. What has changed is that the advances that happened in the technology, especially in the semiconductor business, and especially driven by Moore's Law, was Intel was the creator of this Moore's Law that accelerated the pace of semiconductor manufacturing, etc. The changes in the algorithms, the changes in the hardware infrastructure enabled new usage models and enabled the practical AI, and introduced all of these AI usage models. So AI has been around for quite some time. Now we're coming to the diffusion of AI into our life, into our enterprise and work, into our learning. So it's more about these new usage models and usages of AI that are starting to change things around.
I want to dig deeper on the part where you said you were an engineer in Egypt. How was that education like? And then moving around to the US and the UK, I would like to know you on a human front. And every CXO or CIO watching this, please let us know in the comments if you relate to any of these things.
It was very interesting at this time. Computer science was something that is brand new.
Yeah.
There was Fortran and COBOL and assembly language at this time, so
Oof.
programming was very difficult. So it's not the same now when you have all of your generative AI generating code for you. We had to write the code ourselves. In fact, the size of the class was only 30. And they accepted like only the top engineering graduates in Egypt at this time to attend this class. So it was really a very cutting edge, learning about computers, learning about how to program, and the evolution of the languages and everything. So it was quite an interesting discussion. There's a lot of theory. There was a lot of programming as well. So when I moved to the UK to do my master's degree, it was more on the practical side. So it was more relaxing to use this theory and background that I've learned in Egypt into real practical projects, including one of the project was image processing for the National Health Service. In there, this was actually an AI project, but it was.
Image processing was technically, yes, you're
Yes.
right.
And instead of AI doing the training, we were doing the training ourselves. So we used to have samples of data, we run it, and then we check it, and then we adjust the parameters, run it again, see if it improves or it goes down. And we keep on doing this repetitively until we reach the models with the parameters that are right for this image processing system. So now it happens with AI.
Instantaneously. It's
Exactly,
like that.
exactly. So I'm lucky to see the evolution of AI, and having developed systems that kind of built early inceptions of AIs. It's great to see how, and it's amazing to see how it's happening now in the industry.
For us 90s kids, we were fascinated by what C++ and Java were. You speak of a time which had C, right?
Yes.
And how difficult or easy was it to write code on there?
To me, after a while, it became easy. It became like writing my name. But of course, it took some time to learn and to be able to understand how to use it efficiently. And now, with all of the generative AI generating code for you, it's now kind of high level the programming experience to be able to understand the system and build solutions to fast and prototypes fast to solve real life problems.
That's so true. And thank you. All the engineers watching this, please let us know in the comments what you think about everything Taha has shared over here, because y'all were ahead of the curve. And now with AI, I don't know which curve and which um, curvilinearity will you be approaching life at.
I can tell them they are very lucky. This is a time. I think it's a life changing time. This is more of a like an industrial revolution. The way that AI is changing
I
everything
agree.
right now, so they have the opportunity to be part of that.
So tell me this: if I am a CIO who's come to you for a solution, and you have to take me through the journey, and I'm, of course, I have a budget restraint, and I have to still make the most efficient solution come for my company. What would the life cycle or the product cycle or my journey look like?
I think the key issue, or the key kind of starting point, is what are the problems we are trying to solve,
Yeah.
so that we can create the right use cases. So it's not just I want to buy AI infrastructure or AI tools. I want to understand what I want to achieve in my business, and what are the KPIs that I will use to measure the success of these projects. I also need to understand what are the data that I have and how it's organized, and what are the regulatory process. So there is a lot of planning that needs to take place to make sure that you are able to utilize AI to the fullest in your organization. At Intel, we always say you need to right size your infrastructure. So you
Okay.
need to create the infrastructure that is capable of executing your workloads and your usage model to the fullest with the lowest budget, because as you mentioned, budget constraints is across the board, and it's in every CIO type of mind. So we work through this whole process. Intel brings something very unique to the table, is that we have a very large ecosystem, from OEMs to software developers. We work with distributors. We work with the local manufacturers. So our ecosystem enable us to pull in the right parties to the table, so that you are able to build a full system and platform infrastructure to meet the requirements of your workloads. And these workloads, again, need to deliver to the business, because it's all about making your business either more profits, more productive, more efficient. All of these elements of execution.
Those are all golden keywords that I would like to hear as a CIO. I mean, that's the truth, right? Every tech company kind of says that they are building AI for everyone. This is how Intel's approach becomes different, and that differentiator is all that we care for. Budget pressure is taken care of. When we move from here, there is the next thing, which is known as operational resilience. And while we're sitting here in Dubai, I would like to understand how Intel is helping this particular region, because in the Middle East, the enterprises which have AI running um, know that there are some bits of our lives which are unpredictable. So, how do you adapt to that?
Operational resilience is a critical requirement of the industry. And I think it became very evident given the situation that happened over the last few weeks and the conflict.
Yeah.
And at Intel, we build our solutions from the get go for this operational resilience. So I'll speak on the different areas. We always say that we have Intel products from the edge to the client and the data center. And by the edge, we mean PC plus edge devices, different edge devices. Here in the Middle East, and it's globally, we have a technology called vPro that enable the enterprise to work remotely with sufficient security and manageability despite of the challenges that happen. So it enables fleet management, it enables data telemetry to be able to understand the performance of devices, and it has additional cloud manageability features so that you're able to manage the different devices in your fleet, even if they are outside of the VPN network, outside of your firewalls, even if their OS is down sometimes, to repatch the systems and manage these systems remotely. So this vPro technology is already here in the Middle East, and we are working and we sell it to our enterprise. So that's one of the areas. The other thing, which is also very important, is the supply chain. We make sure that our supply chain is globally diversified, so there is no one single point of failure. We have production facilities in North America, in South America, in Europe, and in Asia. So this globally diversified supply chain gives you this operational resilience as well. And then as we go to the servers, which are critical to that,
100%.
we make sure, of course, the servers are, of course, the key for that. We have what is called RAS capabilities, which is the redundancy, availability type of features in the device to enable you to withstand some of the issues that happen in the hardware. So from the edge to the data center and the cloud and across the supply chain, we make sure that we have these operational resiliency features to enable you to continue with your performance throughout the whole process.
Let's come to part two. I'm really excited about this because this is the Middle East perspective. So, y'all are not just, adopting it, y'all are helping create the sovereign AI infrastructure. How is this region different from the rest of the world? Is there some data points that you can give us? What is here that we need to learn from?
This is one of the most exciting times to be in the Middle East during this AI transformation. The Middle East is building up to be an AI hub globally. So not only to service the Middle East, but to service the areas around the Middle East. And this is why we've seen all of this global AI infrastructure projects that happen. But I'll take it back a little bit. The region set up visions. There was a UAE Vision 2031, there is Saudi Vision 2030. All of these visions have digital transformation and digital adoption at the core of these visions. And the reason behind that is that this is an opportunity to use the new technologies to increase productivity, to add more to the job to the job market, and to make this region one of the most competitive in the world. And this digital transformation and acceleration is very evident across the region, especially here in the UAE, where you see the adoption of technology. So that's technology overall. When it came to AI, there was a very clear vision that this region needs to take leadership role, not just an adoption role. And these decisions and these actions were very clear. Establishment of big companies that are in the that have leadership position to build AI data centers locally and globally. And as you know, a part of 2030 kind of numbers, the AI is expected to kind of contribute to 14% of the UAE GDP by
Wow.
2030. So that speaks about the impact that AI will have. And I can share just like a report that was just published recently
Yes, please.
from Microsoft about AI diffusion, which is basically AI adoption in the working age of the population. And the UAE is leading globally. Qatar was on the top 10.
Wow.
So that's not only that. If you look at the fastest growing in AI adoption, again, out of the top 10, there are three countries from the region: Saudi, UAE, and Qatar. So that tells you how this region, not just by mega projects, not just by announcement, but also by numbers, is showing leadership in terms of adoption. So that speaks of how this region is taking this leadership role, establishing itself as an AI hub, and building these investments.
And that's why I love the UAE, Taha. It's reverse. It's not about the government taking a step after the world has taken a step. It's more they first said this and then everybody else is looking and saying, oh wow, how did they do it before everything else, right?
I think this is a great statement.
Yeah.
I always tell executives that I meet with from Intel, this region is different from other parts of the world in terms of the government is leading the technology adoption in a very fast pace. We need to literally run after the fast paces that the vision of the government and the vision of the leadership of the
Yeah.
countries here to drive this technology in the UAE, Saudi, and Qatar, how they are building and accelerating that. And I'll give you also a couple of examples here.
Please.
We've seen how in the UAE there was the assignment of AI chiefs
Yes.
in major government agencies to make sure that AI adoption is at the highest level and is monitored and progressed. And it's done in a very enterprise focus. There are specific KPIs for each agency to reach this AI competency and building all of this AI literacy and capacity within the organization. The second one, which was announced recently, using agentic AI within the government and reaching 50% of government services in 2 years. There's no other government across the world who have made this commitment and who is forcing this commitment in order to accelerate that, to increase the productivity and again the happiness factor of
Yeah.
the residents and those who live in the UAE.
It helps that they've kind of digitized all of their documents, all of their processes, all of their systems, so that this adoption where 50% is achievable is also possible only in this region because they've done the background and the work in the past.
And I think this is a great point because I believe the UAE government has become one of the first to be paperless
Yeah.
over, I think, a few years back. And as I mentioned before, as you build your AI journey, the data is going to be the foundation of your AI success or failure. Having the right data, being able to organize the data, set regulatory aspects of the data, framework, guardrails of the utilization of the data, maintaining privacy and security. All of these elements are very critical for your AI journey success. And I see all of these done here It's a strategy, it's a vision, it's a regulatory framework, it's an environment, it's an ecosystem, it's an investment.
Yeah.
We cannot speak, we can speak a lot about the investment that the region is putting in building AI data centers.
I cannot help but ask you a difficult one because I think this is the elephant in the room when we speak of AI. Tell me this, for healthcare, banking, or the government, we have to factor in that AI adoption happens without compromising what's private. So, how does Intel come in on that front?
So there is a regulatory framework of using the data to maintain the privacy and the security of the data. And this is very critical. And I believe in the region and the UAE in particular, there is big emphasis on this data privacy and data security. And there is a very strong regulatory framework across the government. And this is why we're building all these sovereign AIs in the region. How can Intel help with this? Intel can help with this in many areas. And the key one is that you have to look at the data. You have to protect the data where it sits, where it moves, and how it executes or being processed. We have technologies in each of those. So we have technologies called advanced threat detection to make sure that we have total memory encryption technologies. All of these technologies make sure that your data is secured and making sure that it's protected while sitting. Now, during the move, we have a technology called TDX Connect to make sure that data is protected as it moves from CPU to GPU for processing,
Okay.
and then after that, as it's being processed in the cloud, we have a technology called TDX, which is called time domain extension, to make sure that your virtual machine is protected and encrypted. So even you are using the data at a cloud service provider, your data is still protected. So all these levels of protection make sure that you are complying with the regulatory framework and it's protected throughout the life cycle of the data. We have a lot of technologies to support confidential compute, and it could be another couple of hours to talk about each
Yeah,
of
that's a whole
these.
different
Yes,
tangent.
yes.
But
But confidential compute built in the hardware, security built in the hardware below the OS is very critical on the way that we protect the data, we share the data, and how it's being processed at the cloud service provider.
I think a subscribe button hit just for Taha's honesty and taking it on the chin and answering that so upfront and closely to us is appreciated.
Thank you.
But tell me this, there is a range, right? In the UAE, we are looking at conglomerates to startups. Where do you think the friction is then for adopting AI?
I So I think the conglomerates and the startup, they complement each other because conglomerates are going to be responsible for building these big AI infrastructure, building the ecosystem, the foundational
Yeah.
for these startup to come and build the application, to build the environment, to create these new exciting applications that will take advantage of all of the infrastructure that is happening. I think overall the key friction of AI is, and as of now seems to be, the data, how to make sure that you have your data well prepped for to be used by AI, how to move from pilots to execution, because there's a big difference between as you build these pilots, how you plan to take them into execution,
Correct.
and how to plan your AI so that it is not it's part of your company's structure, strategy, vision. It's exactly like, as I mentioned before, like internet. So
Yeah.
it's you're not building a separate AI strategy. It's
Integrated.
integrated exactly with your business KPIs, and supporting all your business decision making process.
So do you think like design architects and the new uh, whole LinkedIn buzzwords that have started coming in will make a lot of sense because there will be key VPs of AI being hired, right? And
I think overall the landscape of jobs will change. This is
100%.
something that we are all aware of. Um, I believe that if you look, for example, Anthropics, the way that the new model that they just released that
Yeah.
identifies security kind of holes in different models, it's quite scary. So how you can manage to have security staff or cybersecurity engineers that are able to understand the next generation threats that are coming from AI. So across the board, the different jobs are going to be changing based on these changes in the technology that are taking place. We just talked about programming. So in the past, if you were a programmer, standard programmer, that was something, far and few between, and you used to demand high salaries.
Yeah.
Today, basic programming is done. There's still going to be programmers, but they're going to be at a high level. There are going to be different expectations from these programmers.
Correct.
It's not just about it. The job is not going to go away, but it will be complemented by these new capabilities, and there are going to be different levels of expectations, different level of expertise that is expected. And by the way, it's not just programming. If you look at the legal, even the legal type of business as well, you can imagine if you have a large language model that has access to hundreds of thousands of cases, hundreds of thousands of different rulings and precedents. This can be significant to support the legal. So again, will it impact the legal career? 100%.
It'll expedite a lot of things.
But will it eliminate it? I don't think it's elimination. It's those, and it's like the internet. Those who manage to use it efficiently and effectively are going to be the ones surviving. Those who do not use it, I don't believe that they will have that. I'll give you just a quick example.
You should, please.
This is a personal one. So I just had my checkup, and I said, before I go talk to the doctor, let me upload it to ChatGPT and see what they think. It identified a couple of things that made the doctor literally open her mouth.
What are you saying?
That it was able to correlate two numbers that were not in any way related, and she said, "Wow, this is going to change the way that I would be working in the next few years." So that gives you an idea. Again, doctors who have the tools, who are able to use AI in the right way, will be able to be the most successful doctors, while those who ignore and continue down the same path, I don't believe that they will be competitive
at all
going forward.
Yeah. Empirical data and patterns, the way AI recognizes those two things, it's impeccable. But definitely do also go visit a doctor. Do not just ChatGPT or blood test reports.
100%. This is why I said it's a complementary to give you an idea, and then you can discuss and see. But of course, everything is, and this is why the human element will continue to be very prevalent and very important and critical, especially in these things. Again, we discussed the legal and the medical as well. Different areas.
Taha, there's a massive focus on sovereign supply chains. I mean, how does Intel's ability to secure the silicon to cloud journey provide a unique competitive advantage to local enterprises here?
So sovereign supply chain is something that is very critical and very important. That's why at Intel we have many answers to that. So I address the first one, which is our diversified global supply chain across the Americas, Europe, and Asia to enable us to be globally diversified. So that's the first one. The second one, there is the what we call transparent supply chain. So this is a technology to enable you to make sure that the platforms or systems that you finally have the components and elements that they were assembled in the factory, and they were not messed up with by adding or removing any elements or component in the system.
Okay.
And there is the Intel Assurance Supply Chain, which enable you to have full visibility and transparency to where your products were manufactured. So all of the geo implications of your platform. So you know that the CPU was manufactured, let's say, in Ireland, it was assembled in Malaysia. So you have visibility over your geo supply chain, and this helps comply with a lot of regulatory implications and regulatory requirements coming from very specific sectors like the defense, governments, some of the banking sectors, to make sure that you are compliant with that. So there is a very important element also that we have, which is we do have security built into the hardware. So cybersecurity attacks, there are many software applications that kind of address that, help you in the protection phase, help you in the detection, and help you in the recovery. We give these software application developers ability to use hardware ingredients to address the cybersecurity issues. So these are technologies in the hardware that the software vendors can use, operating vendors can use, in order to harden their solutions to use hardware-enabled security. We have solutions with CrowdStrike and Microsoft Defender that use these technologies to harden the cyber versus all of these cybersecurity threats.
That's really reassuring. Um, and please, if you found that a little too geeky, know that you're watching Mashable Middle East and you need to subscribe right now, because we do take the tech geek angle every now and then as we're curious ourselves. But how do you think Intel is enabling the AI models that speak and understand the region's language? Because there is cultural differences. There is, literally a difference where it needs to adapt to the local region. How do you think that happens?
It's very important, and one of the most important differentiators with Intel is our ecosystem. So we are here in the region to work very closely with the software developers to make sure that their applications run on Intel products. And I'll give you two examples. So here in the UAE, we worked with Jace and Falcon language models. So they are already enabled on our PC. So you can now buy a PC where both Falcon and Jace run locally on these PCs. And in Saudi, Alam, which is also their language model there, is also working on our PC. So we make sure that these applications in the region are enabled on our platform. The other area is to make sure that these software developers in the region have global access and global accessibility. So we have a program to enable software developers on our latest products. So our Core Series 3 that is coming to the market has already one of the key local software developers in the region enabled on this platform. And when we launch this, you will see, we already launched it, but when we launch the program, you will see that one of the software developers in the region is enabled on our platform. So it's two-way stream, making sure that the region's applications run efficiently on our platform. And number two, making sure that all of these local startup community, very new software developers that are coming applications have accessibility to run on our platform.
Whatever. Do you think the MBA education in America ended up giving you this like wider array of opportunities and BD sort of an understanding away from the engineering aspect? Because I want to know where the hardcore Egypt engineer becomes this person who's able to talk the language of what the CIOs want to hear.
This is a great question. When I joined Intel, and that was a long time ago. That was in 1995.
25 years this man has been in the same place.
Yeah, more than that. It's exactly 31 years.
Dude, that's so inspiring.
Yes, so 31 years in the same company. So first, let me tell you, Intel is a great place to work. You can work actually in these 31 years. I had almost 16 different jobs.
What do you say?
In 16 different business units with 20 plus different managers in 3 continents.
So you've technically moved just within the system.
It's like you're moving from a company to a company. Of course, there is like foundational elements, but it's different products, different pace, different customers. So it's like changing jobs almost every 2 to 3 years, but within the same company. The MBA helped me significantly because when I joined Intel, I was just thinking engineering. I thought I'm gonna go there as an engineer and I'm gonna leave as an engineer. That's my life. I would say 10 years after that, I saw that the business aspect is really very challenging and very important. So I started going into this MBA program, and that helped me to work with Intel on something called strategic planning. Mm-hmm. So the strategic planning team at Intel is the team that looks at the technologies that are expected to hit the market 3 to 5 years from now, and build business cases for those. Are these technologies that Intel should adopt or should stay away from, and just these are not going to be the most profitable for the company? So that was the first I would say, kind of infusion between the technical and the business side, because you need to be technical to understand these new technologies and to also understand the business to see the return on investments of these and building NPV models and all of that. So MBA was very important. In college, I never knew what an NPV model is. I didn't know how to build these models. So it was very important to take the MBA to make this transition. Once I made this transition to the strategic planning, I wanted to come back to the region. So it was a goal of mine to come back to the region. So to do that, I had to also dive more into the business and sales, because this is kind of the key business units that operate in the region are the business and sales. And this is how I made that transition from engineering to strategic planning to business, sales, and leadership, of course.
So lovely to talk to you and learn so many things. Such an interesting Mash Talks episode, this one. Coming back to what we were talking about the Middle East perspective. We've already spoken about data sovereignty, but can we speak data, if you have any, about how much do you think the governments are investing? Because I've heard they're investing billions in the UAE, Saudi, Egypt. What makes you confident this region will move from AI consumer to AI creator?
So I think if we start to look at and I mentioned this before, Vision 2030 and Vision 2031, these all have digital acceleration and digital transformation at the core of these strategies, because this is the way that you create differentiation and you increase the productivity of your economy, grow your GDP, create jobs. So these are all elements that are very critical. And this is why we see the investments that are happening in this. So we've seen some investments, and I'll share with you just some data.
Yes, please.
So the cost of building a new AI data center is anywhere between 30 to 40 billion dollars.
What are you saying?
Just yes. So that's if it's a 1 gigawatt. So a 1 gigawatt data center is around 30 to 40 billion dollars.
Wow.
So you can imagine the amount of investment that is needed to build that. The UAE Stargate project is 5 gigawatt. So it's 5x this investment.
So about 150 to 200 billion dollars.
Yes, of investment to build the Stargate project. So that gives you an idea of the amount of investment that is needed to support such a visionary strategy for the region, because this will not be just servicing the UAE or the Middle East. This is going to be globally reaching Asia and Europe and Africa to support them. So it's going to be an AI factory. Think of it as an AI factory with tokens created as the output of these. So huge investments. And also from energy perspective, 1 gigawatt is almost the equivalent of a nuclear reactor, by the way.
Yes.
So that
I
gives
was just wondering, because
Yes.
I was reverse calculating the water intake it would need to cool the systems and the
Exactly. It's a huge endeavor to commit to that. There are also other commitments in Saudi. So Humain is committing also to 6+ gigawatt of capacity by 2034.
over and above the 5 gigawatt.
Over and above the 5 gigawatt.
What?
Yes, but if you look globally, the US has significant plans to build data centers and AI data centers. However, the region has an advantage in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the electric power grid, in terms of the cost of power. All of these have become now very critical component in the data center build out, which gives this region a competitive advantage in its ability to build these data center and to use them. And the fact that we are very close to Africa and Asia give us the ability to service a larger population and provide these services. So huge investments are in the plan already. Some of it already in progress, and some of it is coming over the next few years to fulfill this vision of becoming an AI hub servicing globally. It's a leadership position that is being built in this region, and I think we should all be part of that and be proud of what is happening in the region.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I really appreciate, number one, the reverse brain drain that you've done. It's not about talent going from here, it's about talent going from here. getting all the info and then coming back and making it happen. It's about the edge that the region has, and it's about, like you said, the geographical advantage, which makes me move to the next big part of our chat, and that's part three, which is called pilots to performance. Tell me this: you say AI is no longer experimental, but companies are still running pilots. What's the gap in testing and actually using?
As you know, when you build pilots, you are working in a very constrained environment. However, the business is far more complicated than this. It's not elements running in silos. There is integration between the different kind of departments, different workflows. There are security guardrails
Yeah.
that happen. So the key area of that is number one, is your workflow ready to to apply all of this pilot into the
Fair,
system?
fair.
Do you have the right regulatory framework and the governance and the
Policies.
guardrails and policies to enable that? And do you have the infrastructure that will enable you to go and scale without putting a constraint on your
Yeah.
budget? So all of these elements need to be in place, and this is why we are always saying that you need to look at right sizing your infrastructure. You need to identify what are the use cases and the workflow, so that when you're building these pilots, you know how to take them from pilots to scale,
Yeah.
with the right cost, with the right infrastructure, with the right guardrails in place, so that you can create the business KPIs that you need to put in place to make this a successful AI deployment from a successful AI pilot.
I mean, I would love to see that day where agents are talking to agents and getting half of the work done. I mean, you're just monitoring it on the back end. That will be magical.
But going back to the guardrails and the securities, let's say
You'll
just a
need those.
simple,
Yeah.
just let's think of a single agent. If you have a single agent that does your travel prep for you,
Yeah.
you can imagine that this agent will have access to your calendar, your credit card, your information. So the security element, the guardrail, is very important.
That's
The
paramount.
Yes, the governance is very important. Will this agent be able to use your credit card without your permission, or will need to have your permission? Will they have access to your credit card? So there are many elements as you start building
Yeah.
these models, and then as you start moving from the pilot phase to the execution phase, if you look at these models. So
Yeah.
you mentioned eventually there are going to be thousands of agents talking to each other, generating trillions and trillions of tokens, and making some of these autonomous operations in the system. How you organize those and how you build them so that they are related as part of your strategy, technology, and creating the right KPIs for your business is going to be very important.
Taha, let's talk AI continuity, because for a business that simply cannot afford a second of downtime, how does Intel's on device AI act as the ultimate failsafe while network or cloud connections are compromised?
Yes, this is what we have done, and especially on the PC side, is that we introduced a new processing unit called NPU,
Okay.
Neural Processing Unit. So think of it as an AI accelerator. So between the CPU on your PC, which you always have, this new accelerator, and plus probably either an integrated GPU or a discrete GPU, give you enough computing elements to run smaller smaller language models. So these new SLMs. So this enable you to run these language models on your system without having to go externally.
What are you saying?
And this will enable you to be able to use your personal data, use your private data to make the decisions and make the answers more relevant to you versus going to the larger models. Of course, the larger models are going to be more accurate. They provide more data, they have access. But we're also working on providing a failover. So if your current smaller version of the language model does not support your answer, you can always connect to the
SLM.
network and be
Yeah.
able to access the one. So our new product, which is the Core Series 3, can run up to 70 billion parameter models in your device. So it can run a reasonably solid size of a language model on your device locally without having to go to the network. And I think this can give us more capabilities to run locally and to be able to use the computing elements that exist on your device.
A CTO in Dubai is thinking, I want AI that works, not AI that sounds good. What should they be looking for?
AI that works is AI that helps you um, design products faster, become successful. So
Yeah.
becoming successful depending on the KPIs in the organization. Your KPIs could be reducing the cost, increasing the productivity, increasing the efficiency, reducing the sales, reducing the churn, reaching out to more customers. So many areas depending on that. If you're a bank, reducing fraudulent transactions, reducing the cost, or actually reducing the interaction with the physical human beings. So there are many areas that you need to identify as you start to build your AI solution, so that you're able to optimize and use AI in the right way in driving this.
That's so cool. I mean, to everybody already deploying this in the region, please let us know in the comments how your outcomes have been, how your teams have gotten, and what does the future look like for you? How excited are you for the future? Let's move to the last part. Taha, how is Intel building protection for what's coming next?
This is a great question, and this relates back to what I was talking about before. That we look at what's coming in the industry 3 to 5 years ago, and we build for what's coming. With quantum compute coming, the expectation that the AES 128, which is the advanced encryption standard 128, which is sufficient now in many of the security and protection algorithms, would not be sufficient because of the ability of hackers to actually bypass that.
Oh,
So
really?
we built technologies into our products to be AES 256. So and we made sure that there are accelerators in the hardware so that it does not impact your performance as you build these highly capable encryption methods to enable you to withstand what's coming in the future in terms of cybersecurity attacks and hackers' capability to do that with new computing models. So this is an example. I think it's a very good example to show how looking at what's coming and making sure that your hardware is able to give you this protection, future protection, is something that I think we are proud of.
What does Intel's depth of silicon experience mean for a CIO making a decision right now?
It's a very, I would say, this is a 50 plus years of silicon experience, and there's something unique with Intel as well. So there are three categories of companies that you find in the market. So there are those who design CPUs and products. So this is the likes of Nvidia, AMD, etc. They don't have manufacturing capacity or capabilities. And there are those who provide manufacturing capabilities. These are called the foundry business,
Yeah.
and those are like TSMCs. And there is the model of companies that provide both design, so we design the CPUs, and also we manufacture them. So this gives Intel the depth to utilize the latest technologies of manufacturing for its CPUs. It's called IDM, or independent device manufacturers. So Intel has this capability. So this gives us depth into the silicon design, gives us depth into how we design our products to take advantage of the latest technologies and the latest products. Now, we've been in the silicon and the CPU industry for ages,
Yeah.
and this gives us the ability to work closely with our customers and to understand the needs for that. So I mentioned before, as we work with the enterprise, we see the needs for this fleet service management. This is why we introduced this fleet service management in our products to give these capabilities to the CIOs. We also learned that telemetry is very important, so we started to build these telemetry type of solutions and products in our products to be able to understand. Think of it as the odometer of your CPU that gives you some kind of data about the CPU and how when you need to refresh it, what is the situation. So all of this data gives you that. Um, how the new workforce plays outside of the workforce, outside of the firewall, with all of the issues that happen. So this remote management capabilities, even when the OS is down, is something that is critical that we provide and we work and we provide with the CIO. As we move into the data center, it's a similar type of capability. So our Xeon is running many of the enterprise, the majority of enterprise solutions. So we work closely with the CIOs to make sure that the key input about the Xeon and the CPUs is embedded in our products, including some of the security discussions and that we have in the past. Not only that, we work closely with the like of Red Hat and Nutanix, VMware to make sure that their solutions are optimized on our platform and they use the latest security and the latest products that we have there. So all of this engagement with the end customers and also our partners, and these partners span across OEMs, span across software vendors, span across security solution providers. All of these give us this depth to talk about the full platform from the silicon to the application layer. Not only the silicon layer, it's just the silicon or the hardware. Then you have all of the firmware and BIOS. On top of that, you have the operating system and the hypervisor. And then on top of that, it's the application. Intel works across this whole stack of different products, different partners. We don't need to do everything, but we need to work very closely and align and enable our partners to use these solutions in our platform.
Taha has ended up answering my last question, which basically was, what does Intel's decades of silicon experience specifically offer a CIO? And that is what it means, because let's be honest, a high stakes infrastructure decision today has to be made with keeping all of this in mind and offering all of this. How have you found this conversation, Taha?
I believe it was a very productive, very enlightening conversation. I hope that your audience find this conversation useful, giving them some ideas about what's happening in the market, what's happening in the Middle East, how AI is transforming the landscape, and how the Middle East is shaping and positioning itself as an AI hub. I believe we are in a very transformative period in the technology history and in the region's history. The best is yet to come if we continue becoming leaders and establishing these AI hubs. I believe we have the vision, the leadership in the region to comply and to establish a vision that is really going to be transformative to the region.
I mean, AI isn't just a trend, right? And if you all agree, please let us know in the comments, because it's a stabilizer. It's a baseline. In a region that values sovereignty and resilience, Intel is ensuring our digital backbone is secure, continuous, and built for the long haul. And that's why at Mashable Middle East, us tech geeks and curious children have come to you in this podcast. If you like this new format, please hit the subscribe button. Know that we will continue to dig deep and find out more, because it's not the future anymore, AI. It's the present. And the question now is, are you ready to integrate it and lead from a business transformation perspective? I'm Siddhaarth Aalambayan. See you in the next episode of Mash Talks. Bye bye.
Thank you.